Hello everyone, welcome back for the first time in a long time, and some good news. The memory card I thought I'd lost, I think I found it, so I'm going to take that home and check see if it's got the footage on, if it's still readable or if it's knackered. So we're going to do a few easy jobs whilst we're here. We finally had the new aircon units fitted to the main cabin. I'll show you that in a minute. But we've got the aft cabin aircon units working now, and we've got a new control panel that does actually work. So when this panel was taken off before, whoever put it on previously just used a load of silicone and smeared that on. So I've just got my Stanley knife. I'm just ever so carefully going to cut this silicone back without cutting the vinyl, and I've got to remove the sticky tape from around the edges of here, and I have a roll of brand new double-sided sticky tape that I'm just going to run around the edges and stick that control panel back on there, so that finishes off the aircon in here. So I'm just going to carefully, very carefully, do this now and try not to cut anything, and then we'll be back, and then we're going to move on to a few other little jobs that I've been putting off that I'm finally going to get round to doing. So we'll be back shortly. Right, so there we are. I've got double-sided tape, that's a red tape off, and that's just a protective layer, so that layer peels off and then it's transparent tape. So that's all the way around. I've cleaned up that as best I can. I can't get it all off, and I don't want to put silicone remover on because it's on vinyl. But I've cut it all down and thinned it all out, so it's all now near enough level rather than it was a bit bulgy up at this corner. So all done. So now I'm just going to peel that red stuff off and then push all this back in there, and that'll be that done. That's our aircon finally sorted and fully working. So yeah, we'll just quickly stick this on and we'll be done. And there we go, we have our aircon panel up, and I've just got to tidy up my mess down there. So I just have the hoover, and I'm going to do that now, and then we'll move on to our next job. Right, so job number 2 is fixing the hour meters in these 2 gauges. These are the rev counters. And to fix the hour meters, I've got new ones, and I want to put all new bulbs in these. And so these panels come out, but they come out from the back and with some twisted screws that I can't quite reach to get to. But the AIS unit is held in by 4 little screws in each corner. So I'm going to take that out, and hopefully I can reach in and behind and get to the little thumb screws to release those 2 things, so I can basically fix all the dials on both of them. So I'm going to have a fiddle around, see if we can get that open, and if not, I've got Ems down there who can come in from underneath, and between the 2 of us, hopefully we'll get these panels out. So we'll see what we can do. Just be back in a minute, and we'll see how we go. Right, so we removed the AIS, which is down there, and that gave us access to the back of here, so we've been able to get the panels out. I've undone the odometer, the rev counter and the hour meter, and I've undone this big one here, which is the light block from there, from the engine lights, and that's given me enough room to pull it out. So now I'm going to pull the rev counter out so I can strip it down to get to the hour meter. We'll get that done first, and then I'm going to start replacing these bulbs. As you can see, they are a little bit short, and I've got some lovely suitable. These are red ones, so I'm going to try reds again because I want to try red last time on Sally Jane. I never managed to get them fit, but these are slightly different dials, so I'm going to try reds. If not, I've got a load of the bright kind of cool white bluey ones that I had on Sally Jane left, and we'll see. But first, hour meter strip down, so let's get that out and I'll show you what we do to fix that. Right, so we've got our rev counter and hour meter out, and now we've got to split it apart. So the first stage for this is there's 3 screws, one up there, one down here, one down there. They are little tiny flatheads, so I'm going to find my little tiny flathead screwdriver, which is somewhere in here, and we will get those taken out. And then, if I remember rightly, the entire unit should fall apart. And rather than coming out the back like you would expect, it actually comes out the front. It all falls apart forwards. Okay, so it looks like you take the tap take the glass out, which ever so gently pries it on its seal on the corner, and it should pop out fairly easy. There's then a metal bezel that does go in bond side first, black ring pointing up, and then the next thing is this face wants to come off, so ever so carefully pull the, I believe you pull this dial handle off. I think, oh no, there you go, the entire unit pops out. So yeah, ever so carefully pull the dial to pull the entire thing apart. So ever so carefully, I suspect, turn and pull, there we go. Needle comes off and the face comes off, which leads us to the little ribbon for the screen, and it's on a simple little lift connector. So this little connector here for the ribbon has an outer edge that lifts up. Stick your screwdriver in ever so carefully and just lift it up on both sides. That will undo the lock, and then the ribbon cable pulls straight out. Leave that to one side because we don't want to touch that. Let's take this front screen off. Be very careful not to scratch your actual screen or lose these little screws. And again, I suspect getting hold of these parts is very difficult. Let's take the screen off. There we go. So it looks like these are siliconed in. So let me get a new one of the new ones to go and check. I've left them over here. So these are new ones that have come from, I believe it's a Scottish company called AK Speedo. Same company that supplied them for Sally Jane. I want to say they're about 30 quid a piece or 20 quid a piece, something like that. Considerably cheaper than the Volvo official version, which is a new dial at 400 quid. For reference, these dials are made by Siemens, not by Volvo. This one actually has Siemens VDO Trading AG Switzerland on the side. So yeah, they are not Volvo dials or specific to Volvo. You will find them in other manufacturers' products, but just with a different screen on. So there you go, that is the new screen. And yeah, that looks very much like it just pushes in. So let's see if we can just pop this one out then, shall we? There we go. Old and new. So let's throw that old one away. Let's thread the new one through the hole. Push it down and in. It's a lovely little matte screen. The old one was, the old one was gloss. The old one had a bit of sticky tape on the back of it as well. This one doesn't. But right, so now it just reassembles. So we've got to make sure we put our screws and our face back on. Very carefully again. There we go. Face down. I'm not going to finish that sentence. Now we've got to put this cable back into this socket that we took the other one out of. So make sure that it's fully up. If you look, can you see this thing here? It moves up and down. So make sure it's fully up like that. You can see the space between top and bottom. That means it's open. So our ribbon cable will push in really easily. Let me just double check that, what side it's going to. Yeah, okay, so ribbon cable will push in really easy. And then once your ribbon cable is in, what you want to do is you want to push down on that top bar to fully lock that cable in. And now the cable's locked. Carefully, obviously. Let me just double check I put that in the right way. Yeah. Okay, so we'll put this face back down, line it up with the screw mounts that hold it together. Now we've got to put our dial on, and because you can't turn any past 0, so to put these on, you push on and turn anti-clockwise as you push, and then that, you're almost like screwing it down even though it's a smooth shaft, and then you just turn it, and line it up so that you're happy it's lined up on 0. These posts make sure everything's squared away, so we do that. Now we are going to put this back together, which should be as easy as lowering this through, he says. Always easier said than done, but reliably just kind of slots in. Those posts should line it up, so we're now just going to throw the screws in the back before we push the screen on. Right, so there we go. New screen in. Check my rev counter is on 0. There we go, all lined up on 0. Put our bezel in, and then push our front panel on. There we go. 1 gauge, new engine hour meter in, and ready to put back together. So I'm just going to jump back over there, and we'll actually plug that in and see what the hour reading says on this. This is for the port engine. So yeah, we'll be back in a second. Truth, dial's back together. I've put one of the new bulbs in. Let's fire it up and see what happens. Well, will you look at that? And what's it read out? Our engine hours are 686. So, interestingly enough then, when I bought this, I was told there was 980 hours on each engine. Unless this has had new dials, 680, not 980. So actually, that works in my favour. You can see these are still on the old red bulbs, which are the old ones like these, a little bit of red on it. I'm going to swap them all out now for these LED ones, which will make them all look like that. So give me 5 minutes. I'm going to get all this in back together, and I'll show you a finished product. So that's all my LEDs swapped out on all of these. So let's just flip this up, see what this looks like now. There we go. I think that's much better than the old one, which looks like, let me just get the key off. And this is the old side that I haven't touched yet. That's as good as it gets, I'm afraid. Which I don't know if you can see, but that versus that. Yeah, we'll stick with this. Now, I want to do my tank meter as well, because that one's orange, and I want to do my rudder angle because that's actually got a red outline glow but green lit behind, so I don't know how that one works, so that might not be changeable, but we're going to see. And I want to do all the others now. Unfortunately, okay, so I've gone as far as I can for this week. I can't get access to the final 2 screws here and here to take that panel out, and I can't change the bulb in the rudder angle meter up there. It's non-changeable, so my starboard side is still stuck at being rather dim and orange. My port side, however, everything's done, fully lit up, including now my tank gauge at the top. So I'm just going to put my reconnect my AAS, put that back in, wire it all back up to the NEMA network and everything. So yeah, so AAS works, and I'm going to leave that sealed. I'll come back next week with someone smaller and skinnier for access so we can get that panel out. Got more bulbs ordered, so I'm just going to do that, and then there's one more job inside I want to do. So it's that time of year again where we've got the tube heaters from home. We've brought them to the boat, and we're just going to set them on full. Then we've got a temperature plug. I'm just going to plug it in. here we go, and I will set that and make sure that that is at the right temperature, so that should it drop below whatever I set it to, probably 9 degrees, something like that, heater will come on. I've got my dehumidifier, which will be going in the kitchen, which I'll show you in a bit when I go back in there. But yeah, for those of you that don't know, that don't own a boat, at winter you put tube heaters in the various rooms to keep them warm, stop them from freezing, stop anything in here from freezing, and you put dehumidifiers. So each of my cabins have got these little kind of dehumidifiers in them, and I've got a big plug-in electric one which will be sitting in the main kitchen. This door will be wedged open, as will the door into the front cabin, that will circulate air through our entire thing. The whole point is that boats stay quite warm. If you've never been on a boat, they stay quite warm because there's an inner skin and then there's the outer skin, and we're quite a long way below the water. The water level's here, so all of this is below the water, which means it stays quite warm. But when it's cold outside and you've got cold air, you get quite a lot of condensation on building up on stuff, and we can smell quite musty and damp. The dehumidifier and keeping the heat in here stops that from happening. So yeah, I'm just going to set that plug up on the right temperature, and then that's this room done. Got another tube heater for the front cabin. I've got 2 tube heaters in the engine bay, which I've shown you in a previous video. They're already configured, so I don't need to touch them. And yeah, the dehumidifier, which I'll set up just before we leave. So yeah, welcome to winter. Right, so here's the fire extinguisher put back on, screwed back in and connections in. The only thing left to do, I've cleaned up all the silicone around here where we cut it away. I've just got to run a bead of silicone around, but I'm not doing that tonight. I'll do that when we come down next weekend. Dehumidifier is now set up, and we have it draining into the sink, because the sink is a permanent runoff. So that will be set onto smart mode and left running as we leave. We've wedged the front cabin bed door open and the aft cabin door open. I've just put the tube heater in the aft cabin. I've just got to set up a tube heater in here now, and yeah, set the temperature thermostat again, and we're good to go. And that is us ready and prepared for winter. And again, I've got another little kind of one of those little chemical things, I don't know what you call them, but yeah, that's as much as I'm going to do this week. So let me turn some light on. Okay, that's it. That's a video back. So we'll come down next week, we'll finish off those other instruments, and we'll get that finished off upstairs, and I want to get the heater in the cabin done next weekend as well. So we'll aim to get those 2 done. That's the first jobs that I've actually done on the boat in ages. And then we've got a load of other stuff and bits and pieces we've got lined up for over winter that we could do. But till then, we'll see you all later. Take care. Bye bye. Hi all, welcome back. Hope you're all doing okay. I know it's been a long time since my last video. Unfortunately, unexpected absence, my father died. You might have seen him in some of the other videos where he come out on the boat with us, particularly on Sally Jane. But yeah, he unfortunately died, so I've been yeah, away longer than probably I expected with videos and everything. I'm back down on Wild Rose for the first time in probably 2.5 months now, I think. Considering that I didn't prep her for a long period of absence or anything, just literally didn't turn up. Actually, everything's worked, everything's charged, it's nothing's broken whilst I've been on. The fridges are still working, everything. So yeah, it's all good. But there's just a few little jobs that I left unfinished. The aircon units, the 2 AC units, never really worked right. The one in the bedroom in there and the front bedroom in there never worked at all. And the one for here, for the saloon area, was intermittent. Sometimes it didn't, it did, sometimes it didn't. So I had an aircon guy come out and have a look at it months ago now. Come and have a look at the aircon units and see what has happened. So the unit that runs in here that was intermittent is actually now completely broken. It was intermittent because we think it had some dry seal joints, and the guide for the air units, it says, you know, happens in lack of usage, so you just use it. So we set it running for a while and left it running, and eventually it got worse and worse and worse until now it's absolutely kaput, to the point that the compressor motor is binding on and it keeps shorting out the primary capacitor on the board. So that aircon unit is completely knackered now. The aircon unit for the cabins, though, we think we can get working. We think all it was it had a dodgy part, and so we ordered the part from America, and all this is a capacitor, but it's quite a large one. It's a 21 to 25 microfarad capacitor, which in capacitor terms is, yeah, fairly hefty. If you ever looked at a printed circuit board, you see those little things, little kind of power things, you know, maybe a centimetre tall. Well, to give you a comparison, that's this thing. So yeah, it's a fairly decent size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly pop this floor cover up here to get to the aircon units, find the aircon unit that is responsible for the front and rear cabins, which I believe is that aircon unit. I want to fit this. Now it is just literally push and play, sorted, and hopefully, because it's pretty cold in here, that'll give me some heating for the night, and the aircon unit will fire up. Fingers crossed. If not, it might explode, this one, if I actually hook it to the wrong unit, but I think it's the right unit. And then my job for tomorrow is to make the diesel heater for up in the cockpit work. I mentioned before the control panel got wet and broke. I've now got all settings from the manufacturers for that, and I've got the new control panel. So that is my job tomorrow, to follow the instructions and get that up. So hopefully by the end of tomorrow, before I leave, I will have working aircon and heating, therefore, in both cabins and up in the cockpit. The saloon needs a whole new unit fitted, which I'm just waiting for Marine Sales Scotland to approve, because obviously it's a warranty claim. So for those of you wondering what the inside of a control board for an aircon unit looks like, it's very simple. It's a start relay that triggers the cap to dump into the start motor. You've got a transistor, a couple of coils and shunts, another couple of relays. Not entirely sure what those two are for. These are the little caps that you would normally see on a circuit board, and then these are diagnostic ports, and then this is the wiring loom out to the control panel and the air handlers. So yeah, so all it should be is these two wires, which came from the old cap, which would sit in there. Just need hooking up to there, one to each terminal. It doesn't matter which way, as far as I'm aware. There's certainly no markings on the cap. And then obviously the cap just pushes into that hole where it's come from. And then I fire it up and hopefully everything works. So this is a bit of an awkward position. I'm going to put the camera down and do this now. And then, yeah, we'll be powered up shortly. And we'll give that a test and hopefully everything will work. So I'll be back shortly. Okay, so that's the cap back in its slot, wired up. So now we'll give the system some power and see what happens. So let's come back over to here, take the aircon controls on, and pump and aux have to be on, and we want the cabin one, not the saloon one, because the saloon one is the dead one. Non-sticky electrician's tape, great. Yeah, right, so that should be the cabin one, and hopefully if we go into the cabin, this pad will now power up. So I think I worked it out. I'd actually left the breaker off. Only realised when I looked second time the light was off. So now we flick the cabins on and you should hear come on, click click click. go. Fired up. Now what was happening last time is that this unit was running for about 10 minutes and the cap was exploding. And if you can, I don't know if you can see in there, but there's black crap all over the inside there and up here. So that is all the insides of a capacitor when the capacitor blew up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this run for 10 minutes because it was about 5 to 10 minutes last time. And before I put it all back together, I'm going to make sure that that cap doesn't blow. If it doesn't, then I'm going to put this unit back together. I'm going to pull the cap back off that unit. I'm going to put that knackered cap back in so that I've not got two loose wires that could potentially short. Even though I've taped it up so we shouldn't ever actually flick it on, I'm going to put the old cap in anyway to be on the safe side. So yeah, I'm just going to let this run for a bit and hopefully that cap doesn't explode. We'll find out shortly. So the good news, the cap hasn't blown. The heating in the cabins, I tried it on aircon so it was cooling, and I tried it on heating. It is heating, it is working. So now that works, I'm going to put that back in there and screw it down. I'm going to put that old cap in that old unit just to make it safe. And so yeah, I'm just going to flip this off here so that we don't get shorts at all. Give that 5 minutes just to discharge because it is capacitors. Then we're going to put all this back together, put that down, and I've fixed my aircon, or at least one of the units. So yeah, so that's my only job for tonight. Now I've got heat, so now I'm not going to freeze my arse off. I'll be back tomorrow when we're going to do a diesel heat up in the cockpit. So, good morning everyone, it's the next day now, and I actually slept, which is exactly why I wanted to come. So now I'm going to fit the most complicated heating controller you've ever met. So this is the new controller. It's a Challenger, which is a nice cheap Chinese English make. But to fit it, you don't just plug it in. No, that would be far too easy. You actually need all the fuel flow and fan speed settings, temperature offsets, and you have to configure it via Wi-Fi. You can't just plug it in and configure it via this little screen. You actually have to get your phone out, connect to its own Wi-Fi spot, and go through all these ridiculously complicated instructions. So this is where the old controller was stuck. There was a little hole in there. So I'm just going to pull this pad off, empty these fenders out there because the temperature probe and everything for it is just inside of here. So I'm going to pull these out now, get that cleaned up, get that controller threaded through the little hole and hooked up, and then we'll start doing the configuration. So just give me a minute to empty things out and get this tidied up, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how stupid the config is on these things. Right, so that's the hole cleaned up, and if we have a look here at the connector to a heater, it's a standard kind of 3-pin, and if we look on the connector for the new controller, it's got this converter on. Well, we don't need that, so all we're going to do is we're just going to disconnect this controller here, or converter here, throw that bit away because we don't need it, don't need that bit. And now we've got the same 3-pin as the loom. Just going to feed it through the hole. I'm going to get our controller one from here. So, problem number one, the new one has male connectors and needs something to be screwed on, and the loom also has male connectors, needs something to be screwed on. The old controller was females, so the only thing I have is this converter, and it looks like at some point someone has chopped the loom to add this extension bit on anyway to give it the males. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to unravel that there. Hopefully it matches these 3 colours here. I'm going to tap these 3. I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to tap these 3 up to that one. to give us my extension there, and then that will connect to my new controller. So I'm just going to unwrap this, and we're going to have a look at what wiring is in there and see if we can match these colours up. So we have some extreme levels of cowboying here. So whoever did this to attach this end on didn't solder them, didn't seal them, didn't join them, simply twisted them around and wrapped some tape around it. So they are potentially live connections that are now no longer insulated because they're not sealed properly. My other issue is, no doubt those of you who are following will have just noticed, is I've got brown, yellow and blue. I have pink, black and blue on the one coming from the heater, and yellow, red and black coming from the little flight cable. And then, to make matters worse, if I look at the one on the old heater, let me just put this camera down so I can show you. So if I just take this one on the old heater, on the old element, because this doesn't work, and let's skin it. I have red, yellow, and I'm guessing black. Yeah, so red and yellow, and then black there. So I've got no idea how red, yellow and black match up to yellow, blue, brown. I could guess, but I really don't want to. So I'm going to have to go away and ask the manufacturers, out of these colours on this new one, what do they match up to on the old one. And then I'm going to have to come back with my soldering iron and actually do this properly. So yeah, job for another day, maybe next weekend or maybe the weekend after. So I'm going to dump that old shitty stuff there, just leave it there, put this new one safe and sound inside, and I'm going to take a photo to send to the manufacturers and ask them to tell me how to wire it, because I can't really do more than that. So yeah, I'll post this video now so you can see what I'm up to, and then I'll post the second part of it when I get the information back from the manufacturers. Till then, everyone, stay safe, and I will see you all later. Take care. Bye bye.